Everyone says you got to simplify your paintings, but the whole world just seems to be details. They're everywhere. So what do you leave out? Today, I'm going to show you. Hi, Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. So today, I want to take you through the process of how you can simplify paintings and what it means to leave out detail. Because if you're looking at a scene, it's, I don't know, millions of blades of grass, thousands of flowers, tens of thousands of bricks, 40 windows. I mean, what's important? What isn't important? What do you leave out? What do you put in? Well, it really demands a different way of looking at the whole problem. So I'm going to show you a diagram that'll help explain it. I've shown this diagram before, but I think it's worth looking at again. This is the picture plane, right? This is your canvas. And most people are thinking in terms of the canvas and the details and the subject matter and their brushwork and their color and so on like that. And you're putting everything on the picture plane, hoping that it will add up to a painting. But my contention is you really need to almost come around from the back, you could say. That rather than thinking of your picture, you first think about the composition. What in the world you are looking at in terms of cropping and framing, the structure you find there, and then that's on this plane, and then how that structure interacts with the value masses, the design of the value masses, how it engages here. And then you'll find that what happens here starts to sort of take care of itself. Because if the detail isn't serving this, you leave it out. So everything is thought of first in terms of composition. That's the structure, the design, how they're working here and here. And when you take care of that, it lets you know that, oh, that detail's unnecessary. That detail's unnecessary. I don't need that either. You can eliminate a lot of things from here when there's a really good design structure here. So after the drawing course I taught this winter, we did a 30-day challenge, doing a composition a day. And I did it with them. And some of them were from life, so I don't have any photos from them. But many of them were from photos. Now, these are not finished drawings. They're really, they're not thumbnails either, but I wouldn't work on them anymore. I mean, they're done. But they're really a valuable way of studies for compositions, particularly images you're not really sure about, ways to think about them before you begin to paint. You can learn a lot by drawing them like this. So I'm going to show you 5 images. So an uncropped one, a cropped one, and then the drawing in each case. And you'll see that I am breaking it down. I'm thinking of structure, but I'm breaking it down into the design of the value masses, simplified value masses. So we'll look at 4 of them. So this is evening light, and we have some really nice shadows and shapes right in here and some nice stuff going on in the foreground. And there's a good structure of sort of the road coming this way and horizontals. So we see that it's got potential. But there's a lot of kind of stuff going on that is not very dramatic. If you really look at it, the interesting part is kind of right there, isn't it? So this is how I'd crop it. Now, when you look at it, you realize, oh, now I'm looking at the actual shapes. I'm looking at some really strong lights and darks. And even though there's flowers everywhere, and tall grasses and telephone poles and individual trees and little sky holes everywhere, and boy, look at all those pine trees there and little things here and telephone lines and telephone poles and posts here, and oh my God, seems to be so much stuff. But the point is, if you're going to draw this, and the drawing process is just what allows you to simplify things down, then you realize all those trees you can just create as a mass. That tree, just a shape, and the shadow side, and another mass. You see, if there's only about 4 values in that thing, and you see that I'm sort of running if it's horizontal, I run the marks this way, right? To really clear what's going on. If it's vertical, I tend to run them this way. Oh, I see what's going on. Those are trees. And you can see that I'm thinking in terms of the design and in terms of the structure. And you could imagine that this drawing, which is about 6 inches across on the bottom, you could translate the sets to say 10 by 12 or 12/16 or something like that, and add color, and you'd have a really nice little painting, just using the shapes that are there, right? Just simplifying it down so that it's the design that tells you what to use, not being distracted by all the information. This is a photograph I took over 25 years ago. It's actually a print, and you can see the masking tape that's holding it down there. But I've always sort of resisted painting it. It was an evening scene. I think the two waitresses, I knew them, and I just said, hey, could you stand there? It was sort of after work or something. And I took some photographs. And I've always thought it would make an interesting painting, but I was always reluctant to try it. And I thought during the challenge, well, why don't I just draw it and see? So my first thought was to get rid of this window here because it kind of divides us between what we're supposed to be looking at. And this is the way I cropped it. So now, obviously, what you're going to is the interaction here between the two people. There's a narrative there. We can't help but be attracted to that. And then there's this second thing of the light bringing us round to here. So it's kind of nice movement within the picture plane to what the narrative element would be. And there's the drawing, and it's kept really simple. I mean, that painting or whatever it is up there. The little plants are gone. There's all kinds of things that I've eliminated. The bricks are gone. The floorboards are gone. I'm just thinking in terms of value masses. And I mean, if you look at her face, there's actually nothing going on at all, right? Just a tray and the girl holding the tray. But you get this movement like this, bringing us round to what will be the narrative element, and everything else is just quiet and supporting that. And you can see that it's like 3-4 values, very simple, and yet it sort of starts to have something you could say, I could make a painting out of that. So the drawing process helped simplify the thinking into seeing where the strength of it was, the strength of the image was, without getting distracted by all the detail. Each month, I'm creating for free 4 videos themed on one topic. This month, simplifying. Other months, we'll look, for example, at finding inspiration or mastering color. Click on that little white box in the top right, or go to my website, ianroberts.com, to sign up, and I'll send you, also for free, my video, 4 foundational principles to create better paintings. Now, back to the video. This is a fairly typical scene of rural Ontario in the summer, and I really like the sort of simple, iconic shapes of the barn. But the thing that I find is that you've got these cut grasses coming to this single tree here and these lines coming up to here that's kind of creating a secondary pull compared to maybe a stronger design sense here. So I cropped it like that. So we're really coming in on these simple, beautiful, iconic shapes on the picture plane like that, with a pathway probably leading back to here. But even now, I mean, we have a tree here that has lots of information. There's little sky holes, other trees back here, this kind of funky looking tree like that. And we've got all these cut grasses, and there's cows in here and all kinds of little fence pits and doorways and trucks and cut grasses. There's still a lot of things. There's all these little lines going around here and lines here and boards, and there's still a lot. How are we going to simplify that? And you can see by focusing on the big masses, you see how simple those tree masses are now, just sort of orchestrating the shape of the barn behind them, the same as here, right? That simple mass back there. And each of, like, all those lines are gone, because really the important thing is that shape and this shape, right? And the cows are gone, but this thing kind of pulls us to this direction. So you can see that there's a little bit of information here in terms of tall grasses perhaps, but mainly you're just getting these simple flat masses that are giving us the sense of where everything is sitting in space, and how we could simplify that right down into value masses of light and dark to create a really sort of tight, iconic sense of a farm. And then finally, I'm driving north in Ontario. It's like the very beginning of spring before the leaves have come in, and the evening light is just spectacular. So I park the car and I'm walking around, and again, the road attracts me in terms of structure. I can see what might work. But the main thing that I'm seeing is the way this light is coming across here. It's just beautiful. And again, like one of the others, you realize that the interesting stuff is maybe here, right? It needs to be cropped out. All this stuff is really just not necessarily that interesting. So once you've cropped it in like this, you can see there's good structure sort of bringing us back to here. But the main thing is still this beautiful shaft of light there. But we still have, signs and things on the road and posts and telephone poles. Looks like there's about 40 of them back there, and telephone lines and these little things and all the little branches, and still have this fence and roads in. So what do? So if I emphasize the masses, we've got the structure, but the main thing that was interesting me is this big shaft of light in the shadows. And so I didn't want it, you can see me softening the edge there, and it's getting harder and harder, and most of the detail, you could say, is right there, and it cuts across, but it's stronger here than over here, so that doesn't pull us out of the picture. So you can see I focused all my attention on that. And the fences are gone, most of the telephone poles are gone, most of the stuff is gone except the simple value masses that are holding the design idea together. Now, by just looking at those 4 images, you may not master it, just in watching it once. But I think, and I hope at any rate, it gives you an insight into the process, the idea that these value masses will carry it, not the detail, the thinking that goes on before you pick up a brush. The next one will be June 7th, the first Tuesday of June. I hope you have a creatively engaging month, and I will see you in June. Bye for now. All the very best.